What's up, y'all? One Piece One Life here, and guys, have you ever had a bad opinion? Or rather, has someone ever told you that you have a bad or incorrect opinion? Cause see, the great thing about having opinions is that they're subjective. So my opinions on a matter and yours don't have to match. I think that that's what allows for new creative ideas when people have thoughts that differ from others. But one thing that the internet just loves doing is telling you that your opinions are wrong. Instead of acknowledging that opinions can differ, they'll tell you that you're reading the story wrong, or you have bad reading comprehension, or you haven't read the story, or sometimes they'll just straight up call you dumb. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm guilty of it. Not to the insane levels, but I think to some degree everybody is. But see, here's the thing, at the same time, there are objectively bad takes. And in nowhere is this more prevalent than in CBR. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, CBR is essentially a site where people can post discussions as blogs that other people can read and interact with. It's basically YouTube without the videos. And CBR is pretty commonly known, in the anime space at least, for having generally horrid takes, with their blog posts saying some of the craziest things you'll see about your favorite anime. And that's how I stumbled upon this gem of an article. 10 One Piece characters who deserve to join the Straw Hats more than Jinbe. And just from that title alone, you should be able to tell what kind of post this is about to be. So today I thought I'd switch it up and do a breakdown of this article and see if there's any merit to it. Spoiler alert, there's not much. But before we get into breaking down anything, I need y'all to do something for me, please. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week, and share it around with all your friends who love the series, y'all. Come on, let's get it going. We're pushing to 700, we're almost there. And make sure you subscribe to me and my boys over at CSY. We are less than 500 subs away from 5K, and we have a very special project that is gonna drop if y'all get us there. Also, this is being recorded on April 1st, and it's obviously not gonna drop on the day because I still have to edit and all, but you know what, I'll count it as an April Fool's video since it seems a lot like a joke to me. Now, of course, I did skim it prior just to see what kind of things were being said, but honestly, we're gonna just go ahead and read this together paragraph by paragraph and kind of dissect each point. So let's begin. During One Piece's Wano Country saga, Jinbe becomes the 10th official member of the Straw Hat Pirates. This came as no surprise to fans, as he's been devoted to helping Luffy since the Marineford arc, and his recruitment has been teased since the Fishman Island arc. With the Egghead arc, Jinbe's first full arc as a Straw Hat, having drawn to a close, it's clear that the former warlord wasn't the best choice to join the crew. And I mean, right there, that's their thesis statement, really using the 8th grade English that I was taught. Let's see if you can substantiate this point. Jinbe is a great addition to the Straw Hat Pirates, but other allies deserve to join the crew more. He's perfectly likable, but with how little focus most Straw Hats get in modern One Piece, his subdued personality has caused him to blend into the background. There are numerous characters with bigger personalities who are just as strong as he is, who have more interesting reasons to travel with Luffy, and who possess more unique fighting styles. Now, part of this, I will say, is kind of true, at least in my opinion. It's definitely true that in more modern One Piece, the Straw Hats have been getting less focus, at least as of Egghead. Though to be fair, Elbaf is seeming to rectify this, so let's see how it continues on in the future. But I also agree that Jinbe does traditionally have a more subdued personality. And that's just gonna come from him having more experience than everybody else. He knows what this is like, he's a vet in this game. But right there, we're promised 3 things that every candidate moving forward should have above Jinbe. Just as strong as Jinbe, having a more interesting reason than literally saving Luffy's career, and possessing a more unique fighting style than Fishman Karate. Which, to be fair, Fishman Karate is not all that interesting in my opinion, so that's the one where I actually may take it. But let's see who the first person on this list is, because coming in at number 10, we have Perona. You heard me right. We're starting the list off with Perona. Perona befriended Zoro during the time skip. Well, that actually has nothing to do with Luffy, but let's see what happens. Perona was first introduced as a henchwoman of Gecko Moria in the Thriller Bark arc. Having eaten the Horo Horo no Mi, Perona can create ghosts that either explore or drain the will to live from their victims. Wait, explore their... Why is it said like that? What do you mean, explore their victims? I don't like the way that was said. She posed a major threat to the Straw Hats and was only beaten by Usopp and his pre-existing negativity. Bratty, cruel, and overly dramatic, Perona was a fun villain, and she only became more enjoyable later on. She spent the 2-year time skip with Zoro and Mihawk, and forged hilarious bonds with both of them. Through Zoro, Perona has a personal tie to the Straw Hats, and her creative powers and loud attitude would keep her from ever being ignored. Okay, first things first, I don't think that she has a tie to the Straw Hats just because she's friends with Zoro. Also, I would push the definition of friends and use that term very loosely. Zoro appreciated her for bringing her back and everything, but I wouldn't say that they were all buddy-buddy. But even besides that, we've never seen somebody else try to invite their friend onto the crew. It's always been Luffy. Then you also have to think about it. If we did that for every person who was a friend of somebody who's not Luffy, this crew would be like maybe 100 members deep. You need that personal tie to Luffy, as they say, but Perona doesn't have that. You know who does have that? Jinbe. Now, would the Horo no Mi make for an interesting power to the crew? Yes and no. Because you see, her negative hollow ability, where the ghost just passes through you and instantly makes you depressed, it's either absolute hacks and one-shots everybody, or with what we know about Haki now, completely useless. So I don't know, I just don't see Perona joining. But let's see who else they say is on there. At number 9, we got Reiju. Specifically, Reiju would put a new spin on Sanji's running gags. I'm already terrified of what you just said. Please substantiate it well. Introduced during the Whole Cake Island saga, Reiju Vinsmoke Reiju, we're Japanese here, is Sanji's older sister. Unlike the rest of Sanji's family, Reiju isn't a monster and has always tried her best to look out for him. What she does share with Sanji and the rest of her family is incredible strength, specifically wielding various poison-based powers. Nothing too crazy said there, except maybe the part about incredible strength to the family. I'm sorry, can we talk about it? The Germa 66 was actually horrible. Sanji on individual occasions pieced up Yonji and Niji by himself, and would have pieced up Judge if not for the fact that A, Judge played dirty, and B, he was being threatened. But now we get into how Reiju would actually fit into the crew, and oh dear. One of the most consistent dynamics in One Piece is Sanji's devotion to and flirtations with Nami and Robin. Jokes related to Sanji's perverted side have long been a point of contention amongst fans, especially where his crewmates are concerned, and Reiju's presence would change what the jokes in these scenes are in a refreshing way. No longer would the humor be about how creepy and obsessed Sanji is, but about him having to restrain himself in the presence of his sister. Now I will admit, that does sound like an interesting new spin on the gag. But hey, is there anything in the story that suggests that Sanji, by Reiju being there, is actually going to stop acting like that? Because remember, Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji still acted like that, and they were always around Reiju. They acted like that when they saw Nami, and Reiju was right there. To be fair, they also don't care. But notice how there isn't a single reason about why she should actually join the crew, why she should follow Luffy, how she can even help Luffy. So yeah, we're going to give a big X to Reiju as well. Number 8 is going to be very interesting for people, because that's about Tama. Tama contributed more than several Straw Hat pirates to the raid on Onigashima. And you know, based on the way to substantiate it, this actually may not be a bad take. Despite only being 8 years old, Kurozumi Tama is one of the biggest players in the Wano Country saga. Just a nitpick, but how are you gonna say Sanji and Reiju Vinsmoke, putting the first name first and then the last name, but then here you're using the Japanese and doing Kurozumi Tama? Wouldn't you do, just consistency, you know what I'm saying? The first resident of Wano that Luffy meets, Tama giving him rice to eat fueled his drive to topple Kaido's oppressive regime and ensure she'll never go hungry again. Even beyond this chance meeting, Tama is an essential member of the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance. Now the first part of this is true. Tama giving Luffy the rice to eat was broadly why Luffy was fighting. It was his drive, because he even said when he was taking down Kaido, I'm gonna create a world where my friends and everybody can eat as much as they want. And that is a typical role of the child of the arc, somebody that Luffy is gonna attach to easily and be the driving force behind why he's actually in that country's mess. But Tama is not a member of the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance. She snuck there. Never forget, we literally saw a flashback of how it happened. She just snuck aboard a ship and was like, please guys, keep it quiet. Tama ate the Kibi Kibi no Mi, allowing her to create dango from her cheeks that, when consumed by an animal, makes it subservient to her. With this power, Tama is able to decimate the beast pirate's number advantage by feeding her dango to those who've eaten smiles and forcing them to fight for the Alliance. Just like Jinbe, Tama has a connection to Pork as D-Ace, having befriended him during his visit to Wano. She even wanted to join his crew. Unlike Jinbe, whose role as the Straw Hat's helmsman doesn't feel essential, Tama would have worked perfectly as an apprentice, like Shanks was on Goldie Roger's crew. And you know what, fair enough, this is actually a well-stated argument. Tama did have a connection to Ace, and playing off of that could actually be a point of character development for her. Whether you feel like the helmsman role is important or not, that's just kind of up to you. Personally, I think it's kind of like 50-50, but Tama being the apprentice is definitely what a lot of people had been thinking about for her role moving forward in the story when we were still in Wano, especially drawing those parallels between generations with Roger and Luffy. So you know what, this one gets a check for me. Would I say that she should have joined before or instead of Jinbe? No, but I would definitely say just in general she should have joined the crew. Are we gonna continue this with number 7? No, because at number 7 we have Boa Hancock is a more interesting warlord than Jinbe. Oh god. One of the biggest arguments in favor of Jinbe's status as a Straw Hat is that, as a Yonko, Luffy deserves pirates with reputations as famous as his on his crew. Jinbe may be a former warlord of the season, okay. But he isn't the only Straw Hat dedicated to Luffy's dreams. Boa Hancock has been in love with Luffy since the Amazon Lily arc, and, with her warlord status revoked, aligning herself with the newly christened Yonko would make sense for her. Now there is an element of this which is partially true, which is that now that the warlord status has been revoked from all of the former warlords, there is a chance that Boa is trying to look for somebody to, fly under their flag. And why not it be Luffy? However, here's the thing, I genuinely don't believe that she's gonna go to Luffy. I made a whole video explaining why I think she may actually join up with the Cross Guild despite not liking other men. And even if you don't believe that, she still has Amazon Lily. Why would she leave? Hancock ate the Mero Mero no Mi, allowing her to turn anyone who finds her attractive to stone. Combined with her possession of Conqueror's Haki and her higher bounty, there's no doubt that she'd be a more powerful crewmate than Jinbe. Hancock also has more driving her than Jinbe. She's on a mission to protect the people of Amazon Lily, and she has a personal stake against the Celestial Dragons, having been their slave as a child. Jinbe's down-to-earth nature makes his presence difficult to notice, but Hancock is larger than life, and this would never be an issue with her. And here there's a lot. First of all, with the Mero Mero no Mi, we run into a similar issue with Perona, where it's either going to be hacks or useless, because Oda doesn't want fights to end instantaneously, so there's not much that we can really do here. Then there's the whole issue of why are we bounty scaling in Big 2025? Like, okay, cool, she possesses a bigger threat, but I don't think that necessarily has to do with strength. I don't know, I'm gonna give an X to Hancock. I didn't find that very compelling to me. Let's see if our number 6 has more luck, because at 6 we have Sabo should have a larger role in the story than he does. Yeah, Sabo should have a larger role than the role that he currently does, which is bigger than Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Sabo's role in One Piece has always been a strange one. Retconned into Luffy's backstory as his second brother during the post-war arc, Sabo has become a fan favorite through his sporadic appearances. First of all, retcon is kinda crazy to say considering that when we saw the sake cups the first time, there actually was a third cup. So come on, at least be right if you're gonna say something like this. Audiences love his fantastic design, his use of Ace's Mero Mero no Mi, his status as the Revolutionary Army's chief of staff, and his touching relationship with his little brother. Just like Ace before him, Sabo is extremely popular in spite of not having done much. In the most recent global popularity poll, he placed in 10th, putting him above half of the Straw Hats, including Jinbe. There were many who once wanted to see Ace join the crew, but that dream died when he did. Ouch. By letting Sabo join the crew, he could fully distinguish himself from Ace, and fans could learn more about a character they already adore. Now, first things first, notice how they didn't say anything about whether Sabo is actually stronger than Jinbe at this stage. To be fair, I do think that he is. Ace and Jinbe back then were relative, and I do think that at the current moment, Sabo is above where the last time we saw Ace was at. Also, I don't like the fact that everything here is being predicated on the fact that he's just an Ace clone. Like, oh, well, just because we wanted Ace to join, but Ace died, now that Sabo's here, Sabo has to join, right? No, he can have a different role. Ace had a different role. He didn't want to join Luffy. In fact, he was trying to get Luffy to join up with Whitebeard. But then on top of that, it just doesn't make sense because of where his story is headed. We know that the Revolutionary Army is about to play a massive role, and he, as literally the Flame Emperor, fanning the flames of the revolution, he's actually perfect for this. So we're giving an X on that. Sabo should not have joined before Jinbe. Now, number 5 is interesting because we're talking about the most recent Straw Hat candidate that's been in contention for about a year now. Jewelry Bonnie is currently traveling with the Straw Hat Pirates, which as of now that we're on Elbaf is technically not true no more. With One Piece in the middle of its final saga, any further additions to the Straw Hat Pirates are unlikely. However, had Jinbe not joined the crew in Wano, now would have been the perfect time for Jewelry Bonnie to become the 10th Straw Hat. Fans didn't know much about Bonnie going into the Egghead arc, but with it now over, she's become a star. And the only thing I say to that is, why does her joining have to be predicated on Jinbe not joining? The fact that she's already a Straw Hat candidate while Jinbe was there should be enough to say that Jinbe's presence doesn't have an impact. As only a 10-year-old, Bonnie became one of the 11 supernovas, using the Toshi Toshi no Mi to manipulate her own age as well as the ages of her enemies. Bonnie's true power has recently been shown in full, with her able to change herself into future versions of herself she can imagine. Strength aside, Bonnie has a hilarious dynamic with Luffy and Chopper, loving food as much as they do, a tragic past on par with any of the Straw Hats, and a mission to save Kuma. With her even being able to mimic the power of Nika that Luffy wields, she fit perfectly as Luffy's apprentice. And again guys, this is one of the ones where I'm gonna have to give a check mark. A check mark to Bonnie at least joining, that is. Because see, as we've been discussing in Egghead, Bonnie is actually a great person to join the crew. It makes a lot of sense for her too, because she will fill that role of the apprentice to the best of her ability, even better than Tama might have. Now fair enough that the Kuma flashback is technically Kuma's, but you know, Bonnie was a part of it. It's still her story. We're gonna give that to her. But again, nothing about this has to do with why she should have joined instead of Jinbe. Besides, as this person says, we only found out all this stuff about her after Jinbe already joined. What's the point? But fair enough, we're also continuing along the train with people who a lot of others have said they hope join. Because at number 4 we have, Bentham put everything on the line for Luffy. In case you don't know who Bentham is, it's Mr. 2. From his introduction in the Alabasta arc, to his role in the Impel Down arc, Bentham won the hearts of fans with some of the most impactful character growth in the series. Starting out as a minion of Crocodile, Bentham befriended Luffy while they were still enemies, with the Straw Hats captain loving his enthusiastic, flamboyant attitude. In the Impel Down arc, the two resumed their adorable friendship as they fight through hell together. And you know, fair enough, this is all true. In fact, not only did they have that initial moment in Alabasta, people forget this, but towards the end, Bentham is even the one who saved the Straw Hats from Hina. If not for Mr. 2, they would have been captured. While Bentham ate the Mane Mane no Mi, allowing him to take on the appearance of other people, he fights purely with martial arts. This is similar to Jinbe, who uses fishman karate, but Bentham's style is flashier and more entertaining to see in action. Bentham used his skills to help Luffy escape Impel Down, and even sacrificed himself to do so. Bentham shares a closer bond with Luffy than Luffy does with several of his crewmates, and with the Okamas being major enemies of the world government, it would make sense for Luffy to have one on his crew. This would also further parallel Luffy and his father, Monkey D. Dragon, as one of his top subordinates within the Revolutionary Army. Ivankov is also an Okama. Now there's some things I agree with here and some things I don't. First of all, Jinbe and Mr. 2's fighting styles are wildly different. And if anything, Mr. 2's fighting style is basically an inferior version of Sanji's. And if people love seeing Sanji in action, there's actually no functional reason for Mr. 2 to do the same thing but worse. Also, can anyone point me to where it says that Okamas and the world government are at odds? Because you have to substantiate the claim that Okamas are major enemies to the world government. And as far as I remember, there is nothing to say that. Now the parallel between Luffy having Mr. 2 and Dragon having Ivankov is there. That is pretty interesting, I'll grant you that. But overall, I think that Mr. 2 is going to be involved in the final war, and he is maybe going to come back as, you know, maybe a fleet member, but on the main crew, no. And what was Roby? Instead of Jinbe? Absolutely not. Now getting into the top 3 is somebody that I actually absolutely agree with. Carrot already functioned in her potential role on the crew. And yeah, Carrot for Nakama is back. For years, Carrot seemed like a lock to join the Straw Hats. A mink warrior introduced during the Zou arc, Carrot quickly bonded with Luffy, Chopper, and Nami, and accompanied them in Brook to Whole Cake Island. After helping them rescue Sanji from Big Mom, she also did her best to help fight against Kaido and Wano. In total, Carrot spent 7 consecutive in real life years on the Straw Hats, but this wasn't enough for Luffy to invite her to join him. Now, all of this is absolutely true. But see, the thing is, I don't think that this was Luffy's place at this point. Only because as far as I remember, we saw Carrot getting the role of the Duchess of Zou from Inuarashi and Nekomamushi before Luffy woke up. Which means that Oda wanted to have this plan for her, and more importantly, Oda did not want her to join. There was no way for Luffy to be like, oh yeah, well, leave all that responsibility and come with me. Carrot is repeatedly spotlighted during her time in the series, especially during the Whole Cake Island saga. The debut of her Sulong form is one of the arc's biggest action scenes, and Pedro's death makes her choose to carry on his will. She even assumed the role of lookout while traveling on the Thousand Sunny, with the Straw Hats still lacking a full-time one. Carrot is adorable, funny, loyal to her friends, and exceptionally beloved by fans, having placed 8th in the most recent popularity poll. And I'm not gonna lie, granted that this may be biased, but I full-heartedly agree with the majority of this sentiment. I think that Carrot is one person who absolutely should have joined the crew, and there was no reason for her to not. And I'll say it, this may be the first double check. Should she have joined before Jinbe? I still think yes, because it was actually a perfect time for her to join, which was when she was already with them. But see, that's number 3, so I wonder who number 2 and number 1 could be. Nefertari Vivi is an honorary Straw Hat pirate, and oh my god, y'all. Why are we even including Vivi on a list like this? We already know she's coming back. She is already a Straw Hat. But whatever, let's see what they have to say, I guess. Vivi is the only member of the Straw Hat Pirates to permanently leave the crew. She spent several arcs traveling with them, becoming a part of their family, but but once they'd saved Alabasta, she had to choose her duties as a princess over her friends. This is no longer an issue, as Vivi has been branded a criminal by the world government. Now, this is kind of false. Now, as we know, King Cobra was killed and Alabasta's in turmoil because she was apparently abducted. We see that she's fine because she's traveling with Morgans and Wapol though. And the thing is, the government does want her back because Imu wants her, but she's not branded as a criminal. Refugee is probably the better word here, but we're picking and choosing battles, so let's continue. Imu, the true ruler of the world, recently killed Vivi's father, Cobra. With Vivi now on the run and not much of a fighter herself, now would have been the perfect time for her to rejoin Luffy and the others. Fans have wanted to see Vivi rejoin the crew for decades, with some never having stopped treating her as a Straw Hat. Wait. So if you're acknowledging that some people haven't stopped treating her as a Straw Hat, why is she on people who definitely should have joined the Straw Hats before? She already joined. If you're saying this, it means she never left. She's just temporarily not there. Her royal status could prove pivotal in establishing a post-world government world, and it would be interesting to see her interact with former enemy Nico Robin. Both of those things are true, but regardless, I think that this entire section was pointless. I really don't think that you needed to give Vivi a section in something like this when so many people, as you literally say, already think of her as a Straw Hat. And here we are, gonna continue with the horrid takes, because at number 1, we have Yamato was a clear choice to join the Straw Hats. And oh god, I'm fearful already. Introduced deep into the Wano Country saga, Yamato almost immediately became one of the most popular characters in the series. Before even debuting in the anime, he placed 11th in the most recent popularity poll. For the entirety of the arc, Yamato follows the formula for Straw Hats to a T. He's directly connected to the main conflict of the arc, being the rebellious son of Kaido and the inheritor of Kozuki Oden's will. He bonds with Luffy almost immediately, he has a tragic flashback exploring his origins, and he plays a critical role in defeating the arc's main villain. Despite all of this, Yamato doesn't join the Straw Hats in the end, instead of choosing to remain in Wano as Momonosuke's protector. Everything Jinbe adds to the crew, Yamato does better. His personality and relationship with Luffy is more endearing, his flashback with Ace has more depth, his mythical Zoan-type Dovafruit grants him a more interesting fighting style, and he's far more powerful. He also has clear running gags and a proper dream, both of which Jinbe lacks, and he was clearly set up to be the crew's lawkeeper as Oden was for Whitebeard. Yamato is one of the best characters in One Piece, and it's deeply unfortunate that fans likely won't get to see more of him before the series ends. And oh my god, is there a lot to go into. First of all, calling Yamato's backstory tragic, at least compared to the Straw Hats, no. Was it kind of sad? Was it like, damn, okay, Kaido, you didn't have to do all that? This is true. Was it abusive? Absolutely, yes, it was. But when you're really thinking of the most tragic backstories in the series, no one is thinking of Yamato's. But wait, no, now let's get to everything that Yamato apparently does better than Jinbe. Granted, having a mythical Zoan, is that cool? Yes, it is. At the same time, do I want now 3 Zoans on the crew? Not really. And then the fact that her mythical Zoan ability is ice, which Brook already does, it's like, eh. In terms of the flashback being more depthful and tragic than Jinbe's, that's a crazy take. Jinbe's flashback literally dragged up the entirety of slavery. It was literally about racism and how to break past those barriers, and that's why Jinbe does in fact have a clear dream, which is trying to foster relationships between fisherman and human. It all is interconnected. Saying that Jinbe's dream is less valuable than Yamato doesn't even have a dream. What is Yamato's dream? To become Oden? Like, what is that? Also, what running gags are we talking about here? Her saying that, oh, she's Oden? I pray that she doesn't do that. Please break out of this horrible thing before you show yourself back in the story. And I'm not gonna lie, everyone knows about Yamato. This is one of the most hotly debated topics ever in the One Piece community. So even just for the sake of headache, I'm glad that Yamato did not join. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm sorry, you did not cook. Also, given that this was September of last year and we were already in Elbaf by this point, there's no reason for you to have bombed this badly. I mean, in my opinion, it was a cool 2 out of 10. And even then, some of them are shaky. And I know that the comments agree because every comment that I read was talking about never cook again. Jinbe literally saved Luffy's life. What are you talking about? And this is what I mean by people who just have bad takes but want to put it out there. I get it, this is an opinion, but if you're gonna have opinions like this and post it like this, you at least need to be able to substantiate them properly. But tell me, what do you guys think? Do you think any of these people deserve to join more than Jinbe? Let me know all this and more in the comments. Now that is the end of the video, y'all, but before we go, like it, subscribe, and share it around with your communities. Like I always say, I'm trying to build a community, but I need your help to do it. Well, that's all for me. I'll catch you on the next one. And always remember, One Piece, One Life.